All right, Aiden, you're just joining us here. Wonderful. We are setting up our Raspberry Pis, and we are going to, right now, if you look under handouts, get Space Invaders walkthrough. This is a long walkthrough of details. Why are we going through such details, you might ask? Well, so that way you get the gist of what we really are trying to accomplish with you all and Young Engineers Today and what Mr. Mauer wants. We want you to understand what it's doing, and then we want you to change the game so it suits you. The game becomes what you want them to do with it. All right, now I've got another question here. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, all right, some people got it. All right, so Aiden, if you'll bring up your res, you'll bring it up. We'll wait for you here. Jason, you've got it. Leave your hands raised, guys. We can't start. I don't know until we get it. So we still have Ty and Aiden. We're going to give him another minute. Ty's got it. So let's get Aiden. We're going to get rolling. While you're waiting, folks already they have theirs running. Go ahead and download their PDF. Were you able to hook up your joysticks? Well, I'll ask this question in a minute. All right. How are we coming here? Aiden, if you've got it, let us know. Here's a question. Sorry. All right, well, let's just go through here then. I will start to point out things, and I'll add a greater slide in a video just on how to hook it up later. For right now, we'll get this going on your joystick. First things as you do this, Aiden, let us know once you have it, buddy. All right, Aiden's got it. Everybody's set. Very excited about this. So let's go ahead and look at what you're going to do. All right. First thing I would do is I would say go on to Scratch, open it up. If you would, go into Scratch, open it up on your Raspberry Pi, then select, and I'm running it here, so my voice is a little carried away because I'm pulling up. Do File, Open, select Scratch Invaders. Select Scratch Invaders. I'm going to put everybody's hands down. Let me know when you have Scratch Invaders. Raise your hand once you have Scratch Invaders up and running. All right, most everybody has it up. All right, someone has a question. Let me hang on 1 second. Let me see who's got a question. Kishan, what's your question, bud? All right. Kishan, what's your question?
Are we actually using our joystick?
I'm hoping so. It depends where.
Are we gonna use like the joystick to are we gonna finish this to the today?
I'm hoping so. Do you have your joystick with you?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try. Keyshawn, it all depends how fast we can go. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, great. Patience, patience, my lad. We'll get there. We're gonna get you going. How many? I'm gonna mute you now. Now, guys, I'm putting everybody's hands down. Raise your hands down to the people that got their joysticks working yesterday. All right, so we got one person working that way. So there might be a little bit of a video to get it figured out. Why not? All right, let me put everybody's hand down. How many people got the buttons working yesterday? At least they could get a button to work with it. All right, we got a couple people. All right, well, we'll get there. And if we need to, with your next lab, we'll start that up. I know we're going to do some other things with the lab, but we'll get it. We got to get it so it physically works at that location if we're going to write software. But let's go through this. I'll show you where you might have it. All right? I don't have my joysticks or buttons with you. If you don't worry. I will make a smaller video that shows you how to hook it up. Also, I will talk with Mr. Maurer. We'll figure out the best way to do that. But let's go through the code of this because there's things you can change right off. You can change. All right. Now, the first thing I want you to do, now that you've opened up the game, save it as save it as, I'm looking at the original name, I'm going back over here, Scratch Invaders, and then your name. So if it's Keyshawn, it would be Space Invaders Keyshawn, Space Invaders Ohm, Space Invaders Aiden, Space Invaders Trey, etc. Do that and let's work on the program that's got your name in it. Don't mess up the original program. This way you always have the original. Raise your hand when you've done that. Raise your hand once you have it, guys. This should only take a moment. So you open up Scratch Invaders, and then you do File, Save As, your name. Scratch Invaders, your name. So, again, you open up your project, open up Scratch Invaders, and then it'll take it a moment or so to read it. It's a pretty big program. Then do File, Save As, and it'll right at the bottom line, it'll say Scratch Invaders. Add your name after that. Raise your hand when you've done that. Jason's done it. Ty's done it. Good job. Aiden's done it. You're not going to be able to see my Raspberry Pi screen. I'm telling you. You're going to have to just open the program on your Raspberry Pi, open up Scratch Invaders, and then do Save As Scratch Invaders. All right, Trey, you got it? Can't bring up a Raspberry Pi screen on my monitor, sorry. All right. At this point, we got to go on. By now, just open up the file, save it as Space Invaders, Scratch Space Invaders, your name. All right. We're going to go on to the next thing. All right. We're going to do this to learn how to mod games on your Raspberry Pi. You must learn what each little bit of your code does. To learn how to mod these games, to hack these games, to make them the way you want them, and that's what we want. So we're going to go over it in excruciating detail, a lot of detail, but it'll get you there. All right. First, let's take our sprites and their costumes. So if you click on your sprite, when you're at the bottom of the screen, click on the sprites. Click on this sprite right here and then select costume. All right, that's you. That's the player. Notice you've got the normal in the game, and then when the player gets blown up, here's his other image. So there's his costumes. Okay? Does everybody understand this? Can you find this? Look over at your sprites, click on the spaceship right here, not the invaders, not the alien monsters. That's what we're talking about right here. If you don't understand where it is, raise your hand. Okay, so first of all, if you wanted to, it's normal and explosion. You could, and don't do it now, you could change this. You could make that Space Invader. If your school color is blue or green, what's your school colors, guys? Ty, what's your school color?
Black and gold.
All right, so if you want, I wouldn't put black on a black background, but I might change that to gold, okay? So you would go through under costumes and you could paint it. All right, do you see that? And you could make the monsters then your class, whoever you is your rival, okay? And right up there, says it's blue. All right, and you could also change what it looks like when it blows up. We'll get down that road. Most sprites have more than one costume. The broadcast command block and its corresponding when I receive block will be used to initiate these costume changes throughout the code. So when I receive setup level, set size to 100%, that's where you switch costume to normal. We do that because we want this thing to be normal. We don't want it to be in explosion mode. Go to 0, that tells you where you want the sprite and Y value about -157, and then it shows it. So that's what we're going to do. As we have learned, broadcasting sends messages between sprites. This allows sprites and scripts to interact with each other. We can draw these broadcast messages as a flow chart where one broadcast message will initiate another broadcast message. So let me show you what I'm talking about. And again, we have this on PDF. You can download it right now. Okay? When green flag's clicked, then initialize the game, start the screen, start the level, set up the level, run the game. Okay, why am I saying that? Well, let's again, because I want you to conceptually understand what's going on here. When the green flag is clicked, initialize the game. So green flag clicks first thing, then initialize the game, start the screen, start the level, set up the level, run the game. Among others we'll discuss later. Confused yet? There's a lot to do here, but don't worry, we'll walk you through it. All right, let's take a look at some of the player sprite code. The player sprite code is the little red guy you just saw. This is the player, right? All right. So here's here's the sprite right there. See how he's green right there? That's the player. Let's go back. Whoa. Didn't mean that. Let's leave it right there. Sorry about that. Go back down here. So in this case, he's red. It was changed to red on this game. All right, now look. So when I receive setup level, remember we're going to get green flag, initial, start game, start screen, start level. So we're at that level list. Set size to 100%, switch across to normal. I tell my sprite where it's going to go. We're set to go. We want all the sprites to be hidden when the game is initializing. The initializing broadcast will be discussed momentarily. So when I reset level, when I receive initialize, I hide. So you're going to see these different. When I receive setup level, I do this. When I receive initialize, I hide. And again, that goes up to right off the bat. Initialize is the very first step. If you play the game, you notice there's a startup level, right? Let me give you where the initialize happens. Okay, so hang on one second. When it's told that the game is ready to be played, it does lots of stuff. It leaves the setup level. It sets up all these different things on this. It keeps its size, what it was originally designed, set size to 100%. We want the normal costume. We don't want the explosion like I've been mentioning. Give it that initial envision. Show your sprite on your screen. All right. Now, let's go back up here real quick. And in fact, what I would like you to do right now is everybody run the program. We're going to see what it's going to do here. Go on your Minecraft, Space Invaders game. Just run the green arrow. Watch what happens. Notice it comes up. If you run the Minecraft game right now, it says Space Invaders. Press E or H to start. E for easy, H for hard. And we want to give the guy's name who did this originally, David Plowman. David Plowman designed this. All right, his name's on. I want to give him credit. Well, when you click that green flag, look what happens. It says initialize. Switch the background to Space Invaders. That's the background with the yellow and white, right? And it says clear everything, hide variables score, hide live, set score to 0, broadcast start game. When I receive start game, start doing these next things. All right, quite a bit going on there. And you may not get it all right now, but the PDF's there. It's just so when you click on the flag, notice it broadcasts initialize, which is what we said would happen. Let me go up there. That's slide 7. Remember, green flag's clicked, initialize. Let's go back down here. So initialize, switch background to Scratch Invaders, clear everything out, hide the variables because you don't want to see it. All you want to see is that Space Invader screen that's blinking, escape for easy. Everybody go look on the Space Invaders right now and get it up just to see it start to run. All I wanted you to see is Scratch Invaders, press E for easy, H for hard. Raise your hand once you've done that. Ty's done it. Done it great. Aiden's done it good. Trey, Jason, if you would, fire it up. Just start the game up. Don't hit easy or hard necessarily. All I want you to see is Scratch Invaders. This is the code right up here that's doing that. All right? Much of it. Now, it's not flashing the press E yet, but it's doing the other things. And see, so you can decide if you don't like that background, Scratch Invaders, you can change it to what you want. You can make it your first name's Invaders. Now, honestly, you should give credit to the guy who wrote this code, so you can say modified by you and then put his name on there. So, Trey, did you get this? Jason, did you get this? Raise your hands if you did. Okay, good. Now, let's start running your code. So we broadcast the initialize, we did, and we just went through all this. Sends a message telling the other height, sends a message to the other sprite. So every sprite's getting that initialize message, which basically tells them to hide or get them prepared for the game. All right. So that's going to do that. I got a question up here. No worries, Jason. I understand. I'm put everybody's hands down. All right. This clears any marks the users may have added to the game space and others blown up, making sure the screen's clear. And this all is making the screen look the way you would design to. And this is a good habit when you're designing your own games down the road, because now you have a joystick and we have these other games. You can really start to learn the basics of designing a game. You don't have to use Unity game engine right off the bat to start playing without game ideas. All right. This ensures this hide variable set score to 0, ensures the counters for these variables do not show up on the game screen. You don't want that variables showing up right off the bat. Help keeps the game looking retro and clean, looks like the original game. That's what retro means, back. And we can change these laters and alternatives down the road. Notice that we have initialize game. Now look at the next thing, broadcast, start game. That gets back up to, and this is why you screen flow it. Initialize, start game. You have the initialize, and you have start game, and then you'll have your start screen, which will look different. All right, so now we're at broadcast start game. Get ready, the game is on. Here we go. Game, when I receive start game, set game running to 0. So it's either running or it's not. So 0 says it's on, or 1 it's off. So it's either running or it's not. This tells the program the game isn't ready for running yet when it's 0 right there, or 1 depending on which way you do that. Kind of made it sound like 0 it is. All right, so set game to 0, set invader Y to negative. All right, when I receive start game. When I broadcast start screen and wait. Set score to 0, so you're setting all your variables. In this game, you got 3 lives. And then notice we switch the background, and then we have start level. So remember we started at start screen, now we're going down to start level. I love it when people tell me Scratch is for little kids. You start getting this level of detail, it's for everybody. So if this, it's a variable, you're setting that to a variable, right? And it's not ready yet to start running, but it is setting it. It's either 1 or 0. You're going to make that a Boolean. Now we're going to set the Y coordinate of our invaders. So there's the invader, Y. We're setting it to Y. So they're all down, little way, half down the screen. This, as we just said, change the start screen over. You know, and this sets all the scores back, which we just mentioned. This sets the live to 3, switches background to space background, start level. So you could do anything you want off a change out there. This is why you see sometimes, by the way, folks, you see this underlying code and all this is images. You'll see clones of games, popular games come out real fast because people will get the source code and honestly just change some of the images and maybe make some quick improvements or play little subtle differences. Believe it or not, our playable game hasn't even started yet. All right, now let's talk about starting level. So, again, don't worry if you don't get quite all this right off the bat today. We are going to get you to the code. Once we know the code later, we're going to be able to see where we can go in to change our joystick. Okay? For folks, let me do something here real quick. All right, hang on one second. How's everybody understanding? Is my pace? Should I go? Is my pacing the right speed? Raise your hand. Okay. Put your hands down. Is my pacing too fast? Raise your hand. All right. If my pacing too slow, raise your hand. Okay. Well, we had two okay, 1 too fast. Nobody said it was too slow. Okay. I will try to. I'm not going to go any faster. I'll slow it down a little bit. Again, there's a PDF to follow along with this. Let's talk about the start level code and clear it. If it's easy, in other words, we're going to set easy to a value of 1. This is saying if someone presses easy, remember when we started the game up, you could press E for easy, H for hard. If easy is 1, set bomb size to 15, set invader speed to 0.35, set bomb speed to 0.05. Else, bomb size is bigger, invader speed is faster, bomb speed is 0. Wait a minute, excuse me, I'm sorry. Else, bomb size is 30, invader speed is 0.25, set bomb speed to 0. And then it sets it through. So let's go through this a second. Okay, again, we're clearing it off, getting a habit of that, getting a habit of initializing when you do it. Remember the if statements. If the condition is true, then something happens. If the condition is false, something else happens. Easy is a Boolean variable. This means it's either true, yeah, it's easy, or 1. False, it's not easy, it's 0. All right, so we just said it's easy, it's 1, said false, 0. If the user indicates an easy setting, the following happens. Bombs get bigger. Invaders move slower. Your bomb blowing them back up, I guess. Actually, I think that should be smaller, but invaders move slower, bombs move slower. Okay? If the user indicates non-easy setting, the following thing happens. Bombs get smaller. Invaders move faster. Bombs move faster. All right? Regardless of difficulty, the next variables will set the initial movement of the invaders. All right? All right. Invader dx tells us the initial change in the invader's x coordinate. This sets the x coordinator and the y coordinates of the invaders. Because remember, this screen, everything's x and y. We don't have to worry about z. It's not three-dimensional. Next, the game will enter its setup for the level. So remember, here we go. Let's level, we're 35 here. Let's go back up to... When the green flag's clicked, initial, start the game, start game, start screen, start level, setup level, run the game. So we're setting up the level. So again, what we're going to do is we're at setup level now. We've got the game started. I've raised the easy command. Now I'm going to do my level. Once the level setup is done, the game shows the user score and remaining lives. So here's the score and the lives of the person. All right, and notice we're setting game running is that 1 then at that point. Finally, we set the variable that indicates the game is running. To indicate the game is indeed running. And then we set out run the game. We're finally at that level. Hey, before we talk about run game, let's double back and talk about set level broadcast. So hang on here. We'll go ahead and add a moment. Now, one thing you can do here, we're going to go back to that in a minute, but one thing you can do, since you've renamed this game, make changes, go ahead and play with these different values and see what it does to the game. A lot of programming will learn that way. You change something, you go run the game, you see what it does. All right? When we've already mentioned the setup level broadcast with respect to the player's ship. That's the player, right? Set the size of the ship. The player is that green ship or the red ship, the way we had it painted. Set size to 100%, switch costume normal. We did that early on. Let me go back up here if I can even bring it up for you. Yeah. There it is. And this is the setup ship, remember? It's either red or in part of this it was green. All right. But other game sprites, other characters in the game use it. The bombs and missiles of it. When I receive setup level, set bomb active to 0, hide it. When I receive initialize, set bomb active to 0, hide it. When I receive initialize, set missile active to 0, hide it. When I receive setup level, set missile active 0, hide it. Again, you can see we're trying to set all these bombs and everything back to 0, and we're hiding them. We don't want the bombs to go until you press a button to make it go. With both bombs and missiles, the game has set up Boolean variables to determine if the sprite should be active or not. When I receive set missile active to 0, that's saying not to be, and hide it. This also at startup hides them. Hide, hide. So kind of doing both things. Each invader also has instructions when the level is initiated. So you've got the player, you've got the bombs and missiles, and you have the aliens that are attacking the player. This says, all right. Now notice each invader has a set of instructions. Notice it says go to X 50, 155 plus invader Y. Set size to 100, that makes sense. Set invader state to 2. Whoa, now we got switch costumes open. What? Okay, let's think about this. But each invader go to X and Y are different. Why would this be the case? Why does each invader have to have a different X and Y coordinate? Or at least both coordinates. One of the coordinates is different, or they both might be different. Why would that be? So they're not all in the same place. Very good. We got to move them so they're not in the same place, folks. All right? So this is why each one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to use invader Y and X to refer to them, but each one will be like, let's go to this one. Notice this is negative 50, Y is 150 plus invader Y. The next one is X is 5, not negative 50, and it's 155 plus invader X. So, and then the same things are all the rest of them are saying. So you're going to use that to change the different, because each invader has a different initial position. We'll discuss this when we did our own Space Invaders game. Remember when we had our own Space Invaders game and we changed each one by 100 the last time we talked? Same thing here. We can't have the invaders dropping in on each other. Let me just all right, so here we go on the next one. All right, let's discuss how the invader's code behaves. Our initial X coordinate will vary for each of these invaders. All right? We can make the invaders closer or farther away by changing the distance between the X values. All right, so the X is along the horizontal. Remember, the Y is up and down. So, again, that X, the Y coordinates will be the same on a row, but the X coordinates will be different. And there's where it says, this is the row that tells us. And you can put a comment there if you want to remind yourself that's what it is, or keep this PDF so you know. Change the invader's state. When invader's state is 2, the invader is happy and healthy. When the invader state is 0, it's dead. So there's 3 states there. So you can imagine there's 1 state, great. 1, oh, not so great. 0, not so good. And then we switch the custom open. And so that's what it looks like. So, finally, we discussed all the stuff that happens before the game is even started. So this is everything in there before your game even starts up. Now, how many people think Scratch is still just for little kids? Guys, I'm telling you, this could be such a cool. Do you have real quick? Do you have science fairs at your school? Raise your hand if you have science fairs at your school, science or engineering fairs at your school. Nah, just for little kids. It could be for little kids, but it could be. You're right, Aiden. You're absolutely right. But you can take it to a whole new level, and it's a great way. By the way, this is a great way to do a proof of concept on a game and then go in to see if you want better graphics and do a lot more amazing things. But this is a pretty good start. All right, if you had a science fair or engineering contest in your area, it would be a great project to code and make the game completely and tie your hardware into it. I think they'd be very impressed if you take this game and mod it into yours. Just make sure you give credit to the original author, then it's yours to change. And when you change these, and if you have one, share it with me, and I'll put it out there on Facebook for everybody if you want to share it. Okay? Any questions so far, what we just did, just to get it started, to get the game started? All right. And we purposely did it the way we showed you Monday how to make a quick kind of a Space Invaders game, just get a sense of the start of it. We're laying out all this code. If we sat there and had you type this all out step by step, we could do the whole semester on that. We don't want to do that. All right? Okay, so let me go ahead. We can also add some more to our flow chart. Run game, move invaders, launch bomb, launch missile, hit, invader hit, mothership hit. So you just get a sense of what's involved with this game. When we suggest you to mod and hack this game, we're not going to change all the code. We're just going to change the things in the game where we look at it and go, huh. And changing the costumes is an easy thing to me, and you see immediate appearance. But what are some of the things already we could start to do? Right off the hand, does anybody have ideas what you could do to modify this game so it would be different? Guys, do we have any ideas? Make the aliens be able to hit more than once. Right now it's 3 hits. You could have them hit it a bunch of times. Right? So you can make it. You can make aliens move more. Make them zigzag. You could also, you could save it. What do you mean by that, Ohm? I'm not sure I understand that one. But one thing you could do is, you could also have a boss level. Oh yeah, you could save the level. You could sit down and figure out, hey, save the level so there are different things on this. All right. Lovely lady just brought me some pizza, so it was very nice of her. I'm at my school right now recording this. All right, now. So, shoot like a machine gun. That'd be cool. Yeah, I understand. Save where you start off. So these are things that you can change. I am telling you guys, once you can start changing games, you're going to get more fun having friends play it. Another thing you could do, and I would tell your friends after you did it to them, is you could put cheat codes into the game. You could do key combinations that would give you an advantage. Now, don't be do that to kind of have fun with your friends with it, but let them be cool and tell them what you just did. But you could put cheat codes into it. And oftentimes when you're making a game and testing out things, that's what you do. You put a cheat code into it, and that way you can get back to where you were starting. All right, so let's go on here. I really like some of the ideas you've got there, folks. So let's go ahead, but let's And again, I can't stress this enough. When you start changing code on things, change just one small item. Don't change 20 things at once. Test it, change an item, there you go. So, like, for example, we know off the bat we're going to put buttons, our own physical buttons, and a joystick in it. Then we can start changing other things. When the run game broadcast is received, we go into a finite loop. All right? Specifically, a repeat until loop. So when I get that game broadcast, this is a loop that will terminate when a specific condition is reached. Sort of like an if statement mixed in with a finite loop. So what we're doing is we're going to loop until, hey, something's true. We haven't really used this loop a lot. So we'll repeat until game running is equal to 0. All right? So that's the first step. This loop is going to terminate until a variable called game0 running turns to 0. It's going to terminate, wait a minute, when the variable called game running turns to 0. All right? I'm going to go when. Let me change that here. Meaning the game is running is false, meaning it's not running. While game running equals 1, though, the loop will run. So if game running is 1, we'll do it. Now let's go back up and look. Oh, now my screen's jilting out. That just what we need right now. Let me go back up here. So, in other words, while it'll repeat until game running is 0. Well, if we go back up on one of our initialization screens, I guarantee you it said game running 1. Okay? So it's going to repeat this until game running becomes 0. The game will freeze for a very brief amount of time. And you'll do that sometimes to get everything that's set up so it doesn't look jilted. There's a moment there for everything to get compensated. That's why in a lot of games they have that splash screen before everything happens. They have to initialize everything. And just as importantly, that's why some of the new games that have no splash screens, there's never a pause, that's an impressive bit of programming. And impressive, the hardware has gotten so powerful they can do that. Well, all right, this is going to define the invader's movement boundaries, okay? How far it can go, the X max, X min, Y min, all right? So what's the levels on those? It then sends a message to the invaders telling them to move. So this is saying, hey, this doesn't let them move any more than that. You don't want all these invaders running forever and ever, and that's why it's doing it. So broadcast, move invaders, and wait. Before we proceed with the run game broadcast, let's move at the move invaders thing here real quick. All right? Because there's a lot there. This is going to take a little bit of time. We go through it. You got the PDF. We're going to go through this and possibly pause at this point here and call it, because this is going to be fairly about. All right. It starts by checking the invader state. Look at theirs. If the invader state's greater than 1. All right. It prevents the invader from doing anything if it's supposed to be dead. So if you got an invader up there that's been blown up, we don't want it attacking us anymore. Though you could have, I suppose, zombie invaders or vampire invaders. All right, here we go. If the invader is alive, it will move by the amount of specified in the variable dx and dy we discussed earlier. We set those values. Okay? This nested statement will change the costume of the Space Invader. If costume is 1, next costume, else switch costume to open. All right, so if it's greater than 1, so we go nested. If invader state is greater than 1, if costume is 1, go to the next costume, else costume is open. So we're going to get into those a little bit. They will look like they're opening and closing their little arms this way. Okay? This way as they're falling down at Space Invaders. And in fact, what you can do, let me go ahead and do it right now, right now, take a moment, start the game. Easy's fine. All right, it's might take it a minute. Mine just paused. See how they're moving? You can look at some of the Space Invaders. Their arms are moving up and down. Look at the green ones in particular. See how they're moving up and down? Mothership's loading past us in this thing right there. Go ahead and stop. Okay. Did everybody, so that's the costume you're changing. And that costume makes the arms go up and down. All right. The set X and Y, go ahead. Raise your hand once you've seen the little arms of the monsters going up. That's what that's controlling right there. So Ty's looked at it. Ains looked at it. Okay, raise your hands. Once you look at it, go ahead and start the game up. So Jason, if you would, Keyshawn, Trey, go ahead and run it just so you can see the little arms going up on the, see that the little green, if you start the game, you can see the little green arms going up and down. Okay, good. Now, they will look like they're closing. This loop also prevents the costume for explosions from appearing. So this loop, notice if invader state is greater 1, there's no way they can blow up with the costume. It can't switch the costume. That's going to cause it to blow up, all right? You don't want them just suddenly blowing up in the middle of it. Okay? The set X and Y statements will revise the stored coordinates for each invader. So it set X to position Y of invader 1, set Y to position of invader 1. All right? This is for invader 1. So set X to position of invader 1, set Y to position of invader 1. So this is for invader 1. So what you're trying to do is get the X and Y coordinates, set X and Y. That's going to become important why we do that in a few minutes here. The next 3 if statements change the minimum, maximum X in position and the minimum Y position based on newly stored position of the invader. So, if X invader max, set invader max to X. If XY, set minimum to X. So what these are doing is basically saying, hey, you can't exceed these things. The last statement is a bit different. Right here, this is going to pick a random number and set the bombs that they drop. It gives a 1 in 5 chance to set the coordinate for the bomb as the same coordinate as the invader. That's what it's doing, saying picking a random number. If it's less than 20, set bomb to X, set bomb to Y. That means there's a chance the invader will spawn a bomb to hurt you. So in other words, right here is where this thing drops bombs on you. let's go back and run the broadcast. So, to run the game broadcast, let's go back. We're going to run that game. That is, statement checks if a bomb has been detected. Okay, the variable outputting is A0 for no. Okay, so is the bomb active? No, and the bomb is less than 999. Broadcast launch the bomb. So in other words, if it's already active, don't do this. But if it's not been active and it's less than this value, meaning their new coordinates have been stored in the variable. So what it's doing, that 999 is making sure there's new variables in there. These are just saying, hey, we got new variables in there? Okay. If so, it will launch a bomb. Okay, we're not going to go any farther than that right now. Okay, that was quite a bit of code here, because we haven't even gotten to the point where we're going to change our character. But this is how: save the game, give it names, name the game. Like the first one you do Scratch Space Invader, your name 1, then Scratch Space Invader, your name 2. That way, if you make changes and this game stops working, you can go back to your old game. I can't stress that enough. All right? Any questions tonight? There was a lot there. You've got the PDF. Download it. Just go through the point we're at on the PDF. Okay, if we don't have anyone here, we're going to stop. We'll bring this back up and we'll go more into it. Then hopefully be able to get to the point where we can add the hardware in, and you guys have gotten a chance to make your hardware work. All right? You all have a good evening. You got a question? All right. I guess not.